Hello, welcome to the ranch. Today, need you to think a little outside the box. Put on some of our prehistoric zen. Climb inside ourselves a little bit and see things a little bit different way. Today we're talking about onions. Onions, love them. They go great with just about anything, and there's not much better than a nice mess of sauteed onions. They're great on the burgers, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of you good cooks and chefs could make them go along good with chocolate cake. Well, I like them best with a nice steak. Onions are so inexpensive, and they take up space, take up your time and effort. So I'd kind of give up on growing onions. There were just better things to do with my time and space. I've planted some around trees and bushes and shrubs, and it's supposed to help your plants. Years go by, and I'd kind of forgot about these onions, and they've turned into pretty neat patches. This is where my prehistoric zen comes in. And I seen how they were thriving in just some of the most crazy places. Coming up in cracks, in rock pathways, growing in the shade, growing in the sun. Taking the place where there would have been weeds growing if they weren't. And I got thinking, these things want to be wild. They want to grow, they want to thrive. They're not fighting my climate. They're finding a way to survive. And then I think the pioneer times. A bunch of their diet as they were coming across the plains were digging wild onions. It helped sustain those people along the journey across those plains. Forgive me for getting off the path into the bushes a little bit with the history stuff here, but can't really help myself. Kind of a nerd that way. Native Americans, they were harvesting onions for thousands of years. Probably their ancestors were digging up onions and when the mammoths and saber-toothed cats still ruled the land. Us humans have been cultivating onions for over 7,000 years. The ancient Egyptians, they revered the onion. Even placed them in the tombs of the pharaohs as they thought those concentric rings symbolized eternal life. The Romans and the Greeks, they valued onions for strength and stamina, feeding them to soldiers and athletes. They used them for medicine, everything from heart conditions to dog bites. In medieval times, the onion was used to pay your taxes, or it was considered a good gift for a wedding. You know how it is. Nothing says I love you more than a bag of onions. Back from the history rabbit hole and on to our onion discovery. These things, they thrived everywhere. Crooks, crannies, long fence lines, next to trees. Unassuming little warriors just going along doing their thing. But must be something in their ancient DNA that just makes them want to thrive and grow places where other things won't. We can use this in our garden. We can apply it and let them take up those unused, unloved places. Here we got a wild patch onions growing next to this nectarine tree. And it's supposed to help with insects, to have onions growing around your fruit trees, but they're not competing for any nutrients here because they're taken from the surface and your trees are taken from deeper below. They fight through with the weeds. They're just so tough. They love it here. They've been in this spot for for a good 10 years. And you can see they got these nice, delicious scapes. And it's starting to form little bulblets on the top. And they can turn into new onions. The scapes here, these long tops, that's one of the best gifts we get from it. They got a strong garlic-like flavor, and they're just delicious. Whether you saute them, chop them up, on a salad or whatever, they're pretty darn good just plain. Yep, like that. Now I might get some onion breath from this, but unlike years ago, I don't care so much about kissing the girls, so I'll be just enjoying my onion. This onion patch that's nestled in the trees and amongst the shrubs, I didn't plant them here. I threw out some rotten onions from the kitchen, and over the years they've developed a fine thicket. They've probably hybridized now with the intentional onions and the store-bought ones, and they've made themselves their own hybrid. But they're adjusted to my climate, environment, their surroundings. You get a ton of shade, but they really do well. Any time of year, day or night, I can come out here and dig an onion or two. Now these onions, they're not going to win any prize at the fair. They're probably not going to get those great big bulbs. But they're here. They're ready when we need them. They didn't cost us nothing. Didn't take us any time or money. We've got onions anytime we want. Here we have the top of some of our wild onions. You can see all them scapes and the curly Q end. It's bent down, touching the ground here. There's little bulblets that are forming. And where this thing touched the ground, we're gonna have a new onion plant growing. They're even coming up in these rock pathways. I didn't plant it there. It planted itself. Found a place it loved and just took to it. We're going to be digging these up and moving them some other place where they can be of a better use to us and not in the pathway itself. I had some store-bought onions in the house that got all soft and mushy and went bad. I just threw them out in the garden to compost down and build the soil. But they've had life in them and resprouted and started a new patch themselves. I found a whole new respect for the onion. What an incredible plant. So tough, hardy, durable. There whenever you need them. Perfect plant for a modern hunter-gatherer or in a food forest or permaculture or your more formal type vegetable garden. Onions are just one amazing plant. Completely neglected, they've done really well. They've expanded, they've created new patches, just went feral and they're doing their own thing. They've hybridized with the other onions that are about. You don't need to break away from your methods completely, but free onions up to grow in those difficult and unwanted, neglected places, and they're going to reward you. They're really going to impress you and be like a superstar hidden in the tall grass, under a shady tree, next to a bush. So think outside the box and try something just a little bit different with your onions. You'll be glad you did. Thank you much for watching. Hope you'll check back in on me again sometime.